Hello, good afternoon. It's Adil Fazal here, market analyst for CFDs.com. Certainly visit their website. I'll bring up the details for you. Visit the website if you'd like to know more about the products and services that they offer. They do CFD and spreading as well. Okay, so visit the educational website as well, www.cfds.education for real-time charts and updates. Okay, folks, European markets. Is anybody mentally tired like me? I think we've all fed up of the statements and counter statements, and then 1 minute is risk on, the next minute is risk off. It's a never-ending story at the moment. Okay, let's start with fundamentals. So basically, the Asian markets ignored, or should we say, perceived a potential resolution because there was talk of Mr. Juncture obviously trying to make some sort of reconciliation, and the rhetoric was certainly toning down on both sides of the spectrum. There was a possibility of Mr. Tsipras going into this morning of analysing Mr. Juncker's plan and coming to some sort of agreement, or a last minute deal being brokered, referendum being cancelled, etc., etc. Now the merry-go-round continues. Okay. Now, obviously, Mr. Nowotny at present has got accused the Greeks of playing poker rather than game theory, because this is definitely not game theory. Okay, so given the fact that the markets have been absolutely flushed. Okay, so with regards to the fundamentals, Asian markets obviously higher overnight. The Shanghai whopping 5.5%, so very impressive. So therefore, that should have been a catalyst to reduce risk from the market. So a risk-off scenario. Adding the fact that we had stronger economic data as well out of the Eurozone, stronger German data as well with regards to employment and retail sales. Eurozone unemployment numbers came in line, and UK data was generally strong. We also had US consumer confidence come out stronger as well. So the positive data should have negated the risk-off scenario from the Greek Grexit event. Also, given the fact that there was a possibility of a potential real deal being struck and the referendum being cancelled, again, that's a buying opportunity, and you'd like to potentially close your short positions. Now, there is a meeting today at 7 o'clock as well, so again, that's another opportunity there to close the shorts, etc. So this is certainly an interesting scenario that we find ourselves in. Okay, so stronger data, given the fact also that the situation in Greece, that there was a potential get out clause, should have been sufficient enough really to send the markets or propel the markets to reverse and move higher. Now let's have a look at the actual fundamentals now, or should we say technicals now, and see exactly where we stand. Okay, so the German DAX on a daily chart, let's observe that first of all. As you can see, quite a flush in the last few minutes of trading there on the German DAX. Also a flush on the Euro as well. I mean, if I just bring up the chart, the Euro USD to show you, I mean, okay, so this should be perceived as a risk-on scenario, given the fact that we flushed quite hard. Now, if I go to a 60-minute chart of the Euro USD, just bear in mind that the Euro USD is like a harbinger or a potential catalyst now of a risk-on and risk-off scenario. So when the Euro itself moves lower, then it's generally considered or perceived as a potential bullish scenario for the equity markets, given the fact that money flows into equities. That obviously hasn't been the case given the fear and the uncertainty. But again, nevertheless, certainly be made aware of that. It's a bearish engulfing candle, so therefore there is an opportunity for it to potentially move higher. Although having said that, it also looks like an inverted head and shoulders formation too. So again, one needs to be, or certainly needs to remain open to that scenario too. Okay, well, given the fact that we flushed recently, certainly indicates a potential reversal in the equity markets is possibly working its way, and is probably most likely pending. So that's something that we'll certainly keep an eye out for. Okay, so the German DAX itself, German DAX on a daily chart. Okay, so we're obviously coming into that horizontal support zone. We still remain in this channel. We held the resistance up there, and as you can see, the market's flush now. Currently the market's sitting around that 10,950 level. Okay, so that's basically where we find ourselves. Okay, so again, something that's certainly needs to be observed. So a potential double bottom scenario here for a potential reversal and move higher. 60-minute chart for the German DAX. Okay, so we had a scenario, I was expecting a scenario here of an inverted head and shoulders formation. Now certainly seems to be negated now, given the fact that we had this left shoulder here. Obviously you want the head, and then the market also going to hold this potential higher low and then look for a potential reversal, given the fact that we did break out this symmetrical wedge. Okay, so we also need to close the gap above. Okay, so again, that's something that we keep an eye out for or focus on. So you have your gap there on German DAX at 11,500, and then obviously this inverted head and shoulders formation was expected to play out on the right shoulder. Obviously, little we know that Miss Merkel would obviously put a spanner in the works by stating that she would not accept a referendum prior to, or she would not negotiate any deal until the referendum was over. So that's interesting, especially given the fact that the Greeks utilised a referendum as a potential bargaining chip, and realising that the actual Europeans would certainly get afraid with regards to the fallout in the market, and then potentially Miss Merkel would agree to a debt cut in the end, and obviously that hasn't worked. So there's definitely a failure there in terms of game theory. You can call it what you want. It's certainly not working. Theory is theory, and actuality or real life is real life. So I think that's the cold reality that Mr. Varoufakis needs to accept. Okay. So like I said, we're in this downtrend at present, and there was a potential for an inverted head and shoulders. Obviously that itself has been negated to a large extent, provided, I mean, if we can hold above at the 10,989 level, then there certainly is still a possibility of that occurring. Otherwise it certainly looks very bleak. Okay, right, so the 60-minute chart again is a zone in terms of support. Obviously you've got this double bottom here at 10,900, potential support here at 10,950. And then the next levels of support are below at 10,850 and 10,800. So we'll see exactly how the market plays out with regards to the German DAX on the lower side. But I do expect a potential move higher. That's my bias at this current juncture. Although Miss Merkel certainly has thrown a spanner in the works. But given the fact that the Euro USD is down, so it certainly does give it room for certainly a possibility at least. Okay, so all we're doing now is we're taking the pivot highs, just connecting the pivot highs together. Okay, so certainly seems to be the case. Certainly a flush, impressive flush in the last hour here. Obviously we held a resistance there, resistance here as well. So you've got potential double bottom support here at 10,900, so certainly need to keep an eye out for that with regards to the German DAX. Okay, and that certainly seems to be the only zone that we are looking at for now. We did have the 10,950, 10,960 level, and obviously below that is 10,900. So they're the two support zones for the German DAX. Bear in mind that you do have the unfilled gap above, so we are looking for a potential catalyst to close that gap above. Okay, so the French CAC now, let's have a look and observe the French CAC and see how that stands. Okay, so the French CAC is here. Go to a daily chart of the French CAC. Okay, so we've closed the gap itself. You do have this horizontal support level here, and we did go as high as 4890 until obviously we gave everything back. Now we do have this unfilled gap above here that needs to close. That's 5,000 itself on the French CAC. So again, and given the fact that we are into horizontal support, if I go to a 60-minute chart, okay, a 60-minute chart. Okay, we did attempt to move higher from here from that gap fill. Obviously that failed, and now we're again showing on the other time frame. You can clearly see that we are into that potential support zone horizontal. So whether or not this continues and move higher again is debatable. Bear in mind that you do have the gap above, so certainly in no man's land as we currently speak, and looking for historical support and resistance zones. Okay, I think that's a wrap. You also have a 10-minute chart as well for the French CAC, and the French CAC certainly seems to potentially find support at this pivot low, which is going to be at 4790. Okay, so these are all scenarios. with regards to a potential thrust and a move higher. We can take the pivot low from here, connect the pivot low there, so you are looking at 4760 as key support for the Euro stocks, and that certainly seems to be the case of the situation that we find ourselves in at this very moment in time. There you go. So we're in this bearish channel. Whether or not this channel breaks out to the upside, again, this is debatable. So again, we need to focus on the news flow and the actual movements in the markets, especially the US markets. If they can stabilize and start to move higher, then we should see a move higher globally and the market stabilizing. Okay folks, so risk on, risk off, wax on, wax off. Be sure to check out the website at cfds.com. Goodbye now.